Hello, everybody. Welcome to another webinar. We were having some issues before, but we solved it. Uh, we continue with our webinar speaking about our job. In previous webinars, we were speaking more about the things that were important for everybody that is doing the business, and some of them were important also in life, for everyday's life, as we could make more of our days, so we could make more success in the business, etc. But now we are coming back to our business. Just we are doing real estate. So we came to real estate as to offer to the client and customers the service in the real estate industry. So if somebody would like to buy or sell or rent, we decided to give them service, helping him to do it the best way. On the other side, we have customers that are willing to have a motivation to do some sale or some rent or some buying of the properties. And because of that motivation, they decided, they understand that it is very important thing to do in their lives, because selling and buying the properties is most biggest transaction that most of the people are ever doing. So they would like to have a proper assistance and professionals that are doing that. As we could do our job and they could finish their things that want to do, we are standing in some relationship with our clients. We can have a different relationship with our clients, but not all of that relationship will be enough successful. Not all of that relationship will allow us to do the best what we can on our side. And as well, they are not allowing the customer to achieve most of they want to do in some of the relationship. So I wanted to consider this topic with somebody that has a huge experience in this job, and I choose my first teacher in real estate, Ginni Field from California. Ginni Field is doing the business in real estate about 35 years, if I remember well. And she is, in the beginning, she was doing directly in selling, but most of her life she was on leadership position in the real estate. So she has direct experience in doing real estate in different parts of United States, and in some areas she was announced as Realtor of the Year and the other awards that she got for her extensive experience. On the other side, she is instructor that is everyday teaching the people how to do most of their job, and she is also life coach. So all of this is given enough reasons for me to invite her and to ask her, Ginni, talk to us, as we will share opinions and experience on this very important part of our business, and that is what relationship should we stand with our client, as we will get most of that. Ladies and gentlemen, Ginni Field.
Hello, everyone. I can't tell you how excited I am to participate. Slavica, Miroslav are dear friends of mine from back, I don't know how long ago. If you look behind me, that's San Diego downtown, and that's where I first met these guys when they came all the way to San Diego to attend a National Association of Realtors meeting, and I had the honor of teaching them about representation. Actually, it was buyer representation. We had a lot of fun, and we've become close since then, and I'm just thrilled to be able to talk to you. I am someone who travels a lot. I'm all over the world, although not right now. I'm not allowed to go anywhere. I've got to stay home. I'm going to miss a big trip. But when Slavica reached out to me, it was important for me to talk about this, because my experience, having been in organized real estate for such a long time, when I talk to you about contracts, and we're going to spend time about contracts, I'm going to share a little bit of US and the way the US does it. But my history comes back to 2009 in Germany. I was asked to go to Germany. I spent a week there. I was doing some training. I was learning some things. And that's when I was first introduced to how things are done differently in Europe and the other parts of the world relative to real estate. And you know, the United States, one of the things that I shared with Slavisa is that the Code of Ethics and the National Association of Realtors and how we function as an entity. By the way, I'm continuing to admit people, Slavisa. So when we look at the way things are done in US, it's about representation. But it's also about you're in a business. This is a career. This is not a hobby. This is something that when you start in real estate, your goal is to make an income. It's kind of always been mine. And so some of what I'm going to speak to as I share some data is informational, but then the rest of it is toward the end where and then Slavisa, I'll be any questions at all. But my goal here for you guys is to kind of talk to you a little bit about the way things are done in the US. I know Slavisa is doing a tremendous job of bringing more of this type of thing to your area. I have to give you some history because when I had my conversation with Slavisa before I wrote the course that I'm going to give you, this little presentation, we're going through this thing where I want to get paid. I kind of think I'm good at what I do. And I do believe that my clients love me, and I still sell a lot of houses. I'm not just doing all the other things. I still sell houses. I had a great first quarter. So, but I only am going to get paid if I have a contract that enforces that payment. And so I'm going to walk you down that a little bit, but I'm going to share my screen again. Is that right, Slavisa? Can we do that now? You're muted.
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm going to take you to the second slide here because I want you to see the way things are done in the US. We have several types of contractual agreements with sellers. This goes back to forever. I mean, goodness glacier, I've been in real estate 35 years, but the National Association of Realtors was created in 1908. So that's kind of how long. And in the early part, we didn't have the same level of contractual agreements that we do today. So we have three types of listing agreements, because that's what I want to spend some time with you on today. We have three types of listing agreements in the United States. One of them is the exclusive right to represent. The next one is the exclusive agency. And the last one is the open listing. And I want to share with you guys just very generically how those different agreements work. So with the exclusive right, this basically says, and this is actually a copy of a part of the contract. This basically says I'm going to get paid. I am going to be hired by the seller, who is my client. My job is to sell the property, and no matter where the buyer comes from, either from, even if the seller finds a client of their own, I get paid. It's a contractual period of time. I get paid a percentage, and it cannot be changed unilaterally. What does it mean? No matter who finds the buyer, the listing agent gets paid. I'm kind of fond of getting paid, and we're going to spend some time on that. And the contract cannot be canceled unilaterally. It is and in some states, like California is one of them, the contract is actually part of the brokerage, not the individual agent. There are states in the United States where all contracts are with the individual agent. So that's the exclusive right to sell. The next one is the exclusive agency. This particular says, translate for you, and by the way, I'm happy to share that you have the slide deck if anybody wants a copy of it, Slava, so you can share it with anybody. So when we look at agency, exclusive agency means that if the seller, I have a contract with the seller, if another broker or I myself bring a buyer, I get paid. However, if the seller finds a buyer, maybe they go to the grocery store and they talk about their houses for sale and that buyer wants to buy it, I no longer get paid. So I have a contract, but I don't get paid unless I find the buyer or another agent finds the buyer within the organization. So what does that mean? The contract's with one company, but the seller can sell it themselves without an agent. And I want to talk to you guys about how this affects us in terms of the MLS. The third one is the open listing. Effectively, that's what most of what I found to be the case are in Europe. people are getting. So what is it in open listing? An open listing is one that by definition is non-exclusive. Seller agrees to compensate the listing broker only if I personally bring a buyer and we come to terms. What this means is, unless I have a buyer for that property, I'm not going to get paid. And the seller has the ability to hire as many agents as they want to, which is kind of what your non-exclusive agreements are, from my conversation with Slavisa and my experience back in Germany back in 2009, 2010. When we look at this whole component, we look at the open listing, and I shared this with Slavisa the other day. I was a manager most of my career. My largest office was 250 agents. I grew it from about 115 to 250 in 2 years. I'm all about business planning. I'm all about financial awareness. And in California and in Connecticut and in New York and a bunch of other states where I've taught these types of classes, if there's an open listing or an exclusive agency, which is the one before this, it requires management approval. What does that mean? If an associate licensee in my office enters into this listing agreement on broker's behalf and the broker does not approve of its terms, broker or manager has the right to cancel this agreement within 5 days. Now, what does that mean? What that means is, if you as one of the agents in my office takes an open listing, how are you going to get paid? What are you going to do? If you take an exclusive agency, remember the company participates very often in marketing that property. There's an investment of money, there's an investment of time in the process of taking a listing to sell the property. So if I, as the manager, say, well, why would I want an exclusive agency? Because if we invest this energy and money and marketing into the property, we're not going to get that money back. And so it's a lost leader. It makes no financial sense at the end of the day. So we never approved open listings. I personally, as a manager, never approved agency listings. I wanted an exclusive right to sell. I wanted to know that I had a contract with my seller, that our company had a contract with the seller, that when that property sold, we got paid. Now, I'm going to take you down this path a little further because obviously I had the right to reject both of these. Management approval was hugely important. Remember, if you're managing a real estate office or you're running a real estate company, you have a business plan assumptively. And if you have a business plan, the goal is to make profit. I'm a big fan of profit. I like to buy things, so I like to travel. Company financial expectations has to factor into the type of contract one is taken. And then you guys as well, if you're in this business, you have a right to earn a living. Kind of, that's what I've always believed. I mean, when you go into real estate, the assumption is that you're going into real estate to have a career and make a living. If you're in a non-exclusive agreement, not likely to happen as well, is it? So that's why we had management approval. I want to take it just down a little tiny bit to the code of ethics, because when we look at contractual relationships with clients, either buyers or sellers, and we also look at the code of ethics, which is a huge benefit to us, it basically confirms the agreement. As an example, if there's an exclusive agency contract with a seller or an open contract with a seller, and another agent has the ability to go in and say, I'm better than everybody else, come and get me, and interferes or tries to harm that relationship, the code can step in. So NAR, National Association of Realtors, was formed in 1908. The code was adopted in 1913, and it was about conduct and professional standards and integrity. It created duties to clients and duties to customers. The agency law issue happened more in the 80s, but the goal of the Code of Ethics, and from the National Association of Realtors perspective, was always honesty, obligations to clients, and avoidance of self-dealing. Simply put, the client is more important than you are. Now, that does not mean that you don't still take control of the process with that client. So we had an arbitration process, arbitration of contractual disputes. It came out of the Code of Ethics. Respect for other brokers, exclusive relationships. If I have a contract with my seller client, any other agent, and exclusive, no other agent can approach that client and say, fire her, she's terrible, hire me, I'm better. because that's a violation of our contracts, and it's also a violation of the code of ethics. So we had this combination thing of protection. It's respect for other brokers, exclusive relationships with clients, and cooperation between members. So the code effectively created a relationship between clients and customers and relationship between other agents and yourself. So that's the way it kind of functions here. But here's the thing that's more important. And I'm going to corner my friend Slavislav, because when we were having our conversation the other day, he talked about how he will refuse to take a listing if it's an open listing, non-exclusive, and the seller has already signed a bunch of contracts with a bunch of other people, no loyalty, and he won't do that. Well, how do you do that? You have to have belief enough in yourself to know that you're worth it, which takes you to the value proposition. Now, I have been talking about value propositions forever. How do you tell people why you're worth it? What do you do to say to somebody? How do you say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do for you? What are the benefits to the seller of working with me over someone else? What do I do that's exclusive for my exclusive clients that I would not do for an open listing? This is the same with buyer representation in the United States. We have that as well. If I'm going to get a buyer contract with a buyer broker agreement, an exclusive buyer broker agreement, it's the same thing. I will then do more things for that person. I'm going to potentially, as a buyer representative in a buyer contract, I'm probably going to look for sale by owners. I might do direct mail marketing, trying to find a property that fits their needs if there's not a property for sale right now. So that means when I have an exclusive representation agreement with my client base, I will do more things to help them achieve their goals. I expect loyalty. I give my loyalty, plus I give additional service. So when you're looking at a value proposition, you have to differentiate yourself amongst everyone else. And so when we come to the Q&A part, I'm going to ask my buddy here to talk about that, because I know that's what he does, and he needs to share that, because I wish I could get everybody I've ever spoken to do exactly that. So if you were to see my office, which you can't, I did this slide on purpose. I probably have had somewhere in the area of 30,000 real estate professionals in front of me at some time or another, either as a manager or as a trainer or speaker. And so there's a lot of time, and I've met so many agents over my career. And here's the thing that always makes me somewhat sad, I guess sad is the better word, is that people are afraid to say no. And the no has to come from, I have value. I know how. I walked away from a listing very recently. The person was actually not a very nice person, was somewhat aggressive with me, somewhat disrespectful of me. And I said, you know what, I'm out. I'm not your agent. I don't want to work in this environment, in this situation. I'd rather move on. Well, I walked away, and there's a part of me that's somewhat smug because he listed it with someone else and it's still for sale, and I've already sold another house. So you see what I'm saying? But I first had to say no. And in my office, my daughter knows me so well, I have a big letter N and a big letter O up on my wall, because no is a complete sentence. Sometimes when we say no, we stop talking, because that's what we should do. And this is a conversation about dialogue, which is another thing I love to teach, is communication skills and how to say no and be brave. It does take some bravery, but the bravery can come from confidence in yourself and what you're capable of doing and who you are as a human being and why you deserve to get paid fairly. But you have to be able to speak from in here that says, this is what I do for my clients. You have to have testimonials, people that were happy with you. My business is 100% referral, 100%. I closed 17 units on top of all the other things last year. And of course, San Diego County, our prices are pretty high. But I don't have a problem with walking away from a relationship or a disagreement or a disrespectful human being or someone who is not going to be loyal to me. I would rather find folks and help them that will be loyal, that want my service and recognize my benefit to them. So defend your right. I love this slide. So attach no to why you're in real estate, attach no to your business plan, attach no to your future, and work with clients who respect and value you. Now, I've learned how to say no in several languages. I know it's not like I say it right now, but no is a powerful word. And when you look at this particular slide, guys, I'm going to give you the same thing I delivered to pretty much everyone everywhere. Why are you in real estate? What's your business plan say? What's your future say? And work with people who respect and value you. So let's go back to why are you in real estate? What is the goal you have for being in this industry? What does your business plan say in terms of what your expectations for earnings in a particular year, and then your future? If you only work with individuals who will not respect you enough to give you exclusive representation agreements, I would question whether you're going to hit those financial goals, whether you're going to hit the reason that you're in the business at all. And when you learn to work only with people who respect and value you, something needs to be muted.
Excuse me, if somebody is entering now, please mute your microphone.
There we go. Okay. So when I talk about things like this slide speaks to, and one of the things that I share with you that I've written courses about is all about the big reason you're in the business at all. The thing about real estate is, and I have very dear friends in other parts of the world, they're very, very, very successful in real estate. And so this message doesn't change. Why are you in the business? What happens when you succeed? What do you get when you've achieved your goals? And when you are attached to that thing largely enough, you're not going to be as willing to take something from someone who's not going to respect the business plan. Do you have one? Somebody else needs to use Oro. Do you have a business plan? What do you expect to have out of the industry? Everybody needs a business plan. It doesn't matter where we are in the world. And then your future. If you only work with individuals who respect you and value you, and you get paid that way, I'm muted. I should not be. Did you unmute me? Can you hear me, Slavisa?
I unmuted you.
Okay, thank you. I got worried there. So that's that slide. And I picked this as kind of the last slide because when we look at this particular thing, if you walk down this path, you're going to be more able to find the success that you're looking for. So that's just the brief bit of what we wanted to talk about, or what I wanted to talk about. Slavisa, I am open to having conversation. I'll stop sharing. There we go. Stop share. And there we are. Hi, everybody.
Okay. Well, Ginni, you were so concise about representing these things, like everything's so simple. So you're used to do that, but I'm sure that as I see that there are people from the other parts of the world. There are people from Jamaica, Ukraine, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, etc. The history of realtors in the United States is not long, a little bit more over 100 years. So yeah, it's supposed many things maybe were passed before. You passed through some phases in development before, but many people in the other countries are saying, doing real estate, if I don't take that listing, somebody else will. Mm-hmm. Or what Dr. John will say, if I don't do it, somebody else do it. So
I hear that and understand it's not.
They think they lose if they leave the man that is trying to sell the property and say, as often the people comes to me and say, okay, I will give you this listing for you. I give it already to 20 brokerages. I said, why do you need me then?
Right.
If you give it to 20 already, why do you need me? Mm-hmm. What do you want me to do? to do more magician, and everybody is having that listing. And still, so many brokers and agents thinks we have to do all the things.
But
What do you think is the problem? What do you think is the problem? What would you advise to those people that said, if I lose it, if I give, somebody else will take it and he will sell it? What will I sell?
so please understand, it's not just in other parts of the world. That's the same thing here. But maybe it's not, the exclusive part is less the issue. It's more the pricing part. Let's pretend I go out to sit down, and I don't know your price points, but let's pretend I go out to take a listing for $500,000 US. And I believe that the house is worth $500,000. And the seller says to me, I want to list it for $650,000. Pick a number, doesn't matter what the number is. I'm not going to take that listing because I know how much energy I'm going to spend on getting the house sold, and I'm going to be dealing with an unrealistic, disloyal seller. So it happens in the US too. So when people say, if I don't take it, someone else will and they'll make the money, it really depends on what you're going to do to get it sold. How much energy do you have? What I have discovered over the years is that the sellers and buyers who are loyal from the beginning, the transactions go smoothly, we get them sold easier, we make more money because we're not constantly babysitting or trying to figure out, how can I be the one to get that non-exclusive seller's house sold? How can I be the one? What energy am I going to project out to get that done? So it's the same thing here, but it's on price point or length of listing time. And as I shared with you, when you talk about the value proposition, you have to believe within here that you have value and deserve it. But that only comes from what are you doing to do business development? What are you doing to get your next transaction? And the more you're focused on creating your next transaction, the less likely you're going to be willing to give up when it comes to something that's not going to be saleable. I mean, so Slavica, tell me how many people, what happens with people that take non-exclusives? What energy does someone, let's pretend that you agree to take my listing and I've already hired 12 other people. You're my 13th person. What are you going to do to help me sell my home? If you're 13 listing agent.
We are in the race. We are in the race. We are running, running to hit the target before some other did. But this run is, I was thinking about that. Why I would not accept everything. Everybody does it in my environment. But then I find out, maybe it's not in all the countries, but in my country, it is like that. If I would advertise the property, trying to sell it, I have to have seller agreement.
That's correct.
And not only that, I have to do a much of other things to do, in the office, to make evidence about that, to have the documents, etc. Why would I do that to 150 properties?
Right.
If at the end I sold only 30 of that properties, for example, then I thought I will have to have more people that costs to try to run over all this, and still to try to be first before some other agency. What if I say I will choose those sellers that want to be only with me? Maybe it will be only 40 instead of 150. Right. But at the end of the day,
you're going to
get sold 30, right. I will have more time to find somebody else.
Right. I see you, Miroslav. You will get paid, Slavica. You'll get paid. If you have 40 exclusive contracts that you're going to promote and market and support and do the things necessary to get it sold, you have an exclusive contract, guess what? You get paid. If you have 150 non-exclusive contracts, how are you in that race? What do you have to do to compete? How much energy will you be spending for the race to be able to get that done before somebody else? And is that energy wisely spent? To me, not. To me, not. Miroslav had his hand up. You want to?
Yeah, I know that this is a very tough topic for all of us. So intentionally, Ginny and me, when we were agreed about this, we left more room for people to come in. Miroslav was first. Hello, Miroslav.
Unmute him.
Okay, hi there. We had the same discussion in San Diego when I asked you what would you do with a house that is 70 or 100,000 overpriced, and you just said I wouldn't take it. That's not the game here as it is, because there are a lot of realtors in Serbia. I'm talking about Belgrade, presumably by living here and doing the business for over 24 years. But my question to you is, if we can use your experience and try to move our clients from general public or for some contacts that we have into the sphere of influence. If we do them, put them as, we had a lecture by Zola, just put them in the first bucket where the people are your sphere of influence, they would more easily do the business with you. So for everybody, yes, but what are your suggestions how to move general public from being a general public to the sphere of influence, and to have them and make you sign them the exclusive contract? That's something we would like to hear from your experience. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I have that experience, but Miroslav, I have to say something first. You said we have a lot of realtors here. I mean, there's over 1 million real estate professionals in the United States of America. There are 24,000 in San Diego County alone. So we have the same competition. However, of that 24,000, if 1% of them are having a successful career, that's a pretty decent number. I want to be the one, I want to be in the 1%, and I am. But to answer your question, how do you get somebody into your sphere of influence? One of the things you must understand is everywhere you go, there is an opportunity to talk to somebody about real estate. Every place you talk, everywhere you go. So for me, I have sold homes because I bought food at the grocery store to the person behind the sliced meat counter, because I talk about real estate everywhere I go. The moment I have that conversation, they are now part of my sphere of influence. They are now in that piece of my database. And then I stay in touch with them every single month. So when you add somebody to your database, somebody that you met anywhere, it could be anywhere. I mean, I have literally sold homes because I waited in line for a store to open and talk to people. It's still communication, human to human. But once you've made that contact, then they become part, you know, I could say something like, so Miroslav, it's so good to chat with you. I loved meeting you today. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time. You know, I'm in real estate. I know you said that right now you don't have anything you want to do, buy or sell, but I would like to stay in touch with you to see if you come across anyone who may be willing to help me or might want to buy or sell a home. How does that sound to you? That's what I'd say.
It seems to me that very often it is the problem of defending your value proposition to the client. We got the licensing law in 2013, and since then we are obligated to sign agreement with the seller as we will sell the property. Before that, we were not obligated to do that. But I'm in real estate since 2000. So in the beginning, when I was when I came from another industry, I said, I will sell the property of somebody without his written agreement and approval that I can do that. It's not good for me. And I started to do that, but all of my colleagues told me the clients don't like to sign anything. You know what percentage I succeed to sign agreement? Over 90%. Because I was explaining to them why.
Which is why I told you why I was going to call on you, because that's when you talk about defending your value. I joke when I've taught classes, I've actually laughed about this, and I said, let's pretend that one of you are going into competition against me for the same listing. Who's going to win? Even against you, my darling Slavica, even against you. Please,
oh, no.
Please understand, It's a dialogue, but you have to be brave, as I said earlier. So let's pretend I'm going to talk to you, Slavisa. So I understand, Slavisa, you're interested in selling your home. I need you to understand this is the way I work. Please understand my goal is loyalty to you, loyalty from you. And in order to make that happen, I'm going to expect you to sign an exclusive agreement with me. Now, what did I just do? I closed that dude from the first conversation I started. It was like, you're going to be mine, or I'm not going to work with you. And more or less, that's what you have to say. And that means sometimes the back gets turned and you walk away. When I walked away from this listing about a month ago, he was just, nobody gets to be disrespectful to me. I'm too old for that, I think. I just said, no, you know what, sir, I'm not going to be your person, because I know you're going to get it sold. I wish you well, but I'm not your person. Well, what do you mean? Quite frankly, I don't like your attitude. And I walked out the door and I said, no, by the way, I will drop on the hood of your car all the comparables and the data I provided or I pulled together before this meeting so you can have access to it. Walked away, never came back. And no regrets. And here's the best part. I had a buyer, so listen to this part. I had a buyer who was ready to write an offer before the MLS that I could have brought to him and sold that house before the MLS. His attitude, it would have saved him money because I didn't do anything to find this buyer. So he listed the property with someone else. This is the snarky New Yorker me. I then got a call from another seller. I said, I got a buyer. I closed on that house in 2.5 weeks for more money with a happy client, a happy seller, and got paid. He is still on the market. See, walking with me? But it has to come from in here, guys. You have to believe you have value. And you have it, it should be in writing. What am I going to do for you, Mr. Seller, that will get your home sold easier? You're only going to have to communicate with me. It's not going to have to communicate with all the people that you've signed a contract with. I'm here to help you. And that takes bravery. It takes confidence. You have to be able to express your value. What do you do that's better than somebody else? And in the United States and under the code, I can't say, don't use that person, they're horrible. I can't say that. That's a violation of the code of ethics. I cannot say that. I can only say what I am really good at and what I do. This also involves testimonials. You need to have your happy clients write you a thank you letter. Couldn't have done it without your letter. And all of that becomes the part of the packet that you sit down with that seller and present.
So it seems that we have to dare to be to believe in us.
Right. Without
we have
question.
to dare to at first, if we don't believe, who will believe? We have to dare to say we know this job. Mm-hmm. And we can do it.
And it's got to be believing it from the inside. Jose has a question. May I unmute you, Jose? There he is. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, Jose.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Jose Garcia from Miami.
Oh, hi, Miami.
How are you?
I'm good.
Hello,
thanks.
Jose.
How are you, Slavisa?
Excellent. Thank you for participating here. Tell me, you are working there with very expensive properties. So with the properties that I believe many of owners said, I will sell it anyway. Is exclusive representation there present?
Okay, over here, I don't work a deal or I don't work with clients that they don't want to list it. Because remember, it's not only about showing your value proposition. It's about, you have to show the client that it's not only listing the property. Sometimes the client is afraid to list in property with some realtors because they are afraid to maybe to be held in a contract with somebody that they don't know if how long they're gonna take to sell the property. But you have to show the seller that you have, it's not only listing, if not, you have a marketing program. Mm-hmm. That means that you spend a lot of money you know, trying to sell the property. That means if you're gonna just take the listing and put on the MLS, it's something that in this moment, with the all social media tools, it's dead. Only listing in the MLS, and you know, you have to show that you spend a lot of money, time, and then you have to show them who you are. Maybe I have a listing that locally I can sell, but I have you in Serbia, and maybe you have a client interested in that property. That means it's part of what we have to sell to our client.
I agree with you completely, Jose. And again, what you're talking about is if you're going to spend money on a property, you have a right to, I mean, it's a business. This is a business. This is the thing that I drive myself nuts with. Sorry for the moment, but this is a business, guys. You go into real estate as a business operations person. So it's no different than, to me, I call it manufacturing a real estate transaction. I need to know how many transactions I need to close in order for me to be able to make the income I want to make. I then have to take the action necessary to do that. And so it is a business. And if I'm going to have a marketing budget, if I plan on taking this many listings, what am I going to spend on those listings in terms of my marketing dollars? What is my return on my investment of time? Remember, time costs money, guys. So if you're going to spend an inordinate amount of time working with a seller who's disloyal to you, then you're not going to have that return on your investment of time or money. I'm going to jump to something. I got a request from someone to explain what this is from Arthur.
Yes, I just wanted to invite Arthur, because Arthur is one of the people out of United States who is mostly dealing with exclusive representation. Arthur, are you here?
You need to unmute him, I think.
Yes, I did. I muted him. Do you hear
Yes,
me?
I'm here. I'm here. Hello, my friends. Yes.
Okay. I would like to hear, because you are one of the persons that are mostly dealing with exclusive representation out of United States. But, and you have experience from Eastern countries, what is the case on the field. But please understand, here we speak about relationship with clients, not about MLS.
But I also, when after that question, but Arthur also asked me to speak to the class action lawsuit regarding buyer, and I do have I've been watching that, and I have a lot of, I'm very active at the National Association of Realtors, so I have some inside track that I'll share with you guys after Arthur answers Slavis's comment.
Okay.
Hello, Arthur.
So, Slavisha, the point is that exclusive representation, as for me, doesn't work without MLS. So it's undulated. It can be separated, MLS and exclusive representation. If you want to have exclusive right to sell, but you are not encouraging your colleagues to invite, to participate, you are not sharing commission, you are not honest with them, you are not treat them as a partners, not a competitor.
That's correct.
So it's not right exclusive. It's a disaster for customer, because you are selfish. You are, what Ginni told, it's against the code of ethics, because your interest above of interest of your client.
That's right.
Exclusive right to sell, not open listing, not exclusive agency, but exclusive representation, exclusive right to sell. It will work only if you have local MLSs in your community with strong rules, with strong arbitration manual, with strong committee arbitration manual, procedures, punishments. You see, it's not like miracle, you know, it's not like just this with your fingers. No, it's a long process. Of course, they in United States created it 110 years ago.
Mhm.
We are just a baby. We are just in 15, 20 years. I'm in this business 27 years, but completely I realized and understood it only after my first visit to United States in the year 2000. And to be honest, 4 or 5 years, I thought that they wrong. I thought that we need to correct Americans because it's impossible to share commission if, for example, it's impossible to work for buyer if buyer doesn't pay. And only in 2004, I realized the whole picture. It's not so obvious. That's why in Europe, we unfortunately don't have many MLSs, not so many countries who realize it. Even Germany, United Kingdom, Spain, only in the localities. So it's a lot of work to do. It's the best practice in the world, North American practice, Canadian and the United States. So you, Slavisha, me, Dan Negulescu, all, Miroslav, Zoya, we need to work hard to implement it, to prove it, to show in our examples that it works. It works even in our countries. So Ginni, thank you. And that's why was my question about this lawsuit, class action.
And I can speak to that. I have an extensive amount.
Please, please.
Yeah.
Please. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, Arthur. So 2 things I want to say. First and foremost, I love what Arthur said, and you're right, MLS. There's only been, I'm from New York originally, and there's only, back in the day, there's never been an MLS in New York. There's never, New York, I'm talking Manhattan, the city of New York, not some of the boroughs. City of New York, Manhattan, if you will, doesn't have an MLS. They finally, and it never did, and they finally created something called REBNY, which is their pretend MLS, but they're not members of the National Association of Realtors. So many years ago, to sell a property in Manhattan, you had to have, I call them runners, where I have this new listing, I now have to hire some dude on a bicycle flying down Fifth Avenue to distribute flyers on my listing, which was such a ludicrous thing to do that they finally created REBNY. It is still not association based. They don't necessarily, I've never had an agent in New York City take a class from me that gets a designation, because you have to be a member of NAR to get the designation. But let me speak to the class action lawsuit. This goes back to, now you got to remember, I've been in real estate in the United States of America since before agency law was created. And that was a lot of entertainment for me when that first was created in the United States in the mid 80s. I was managing, and I was now having to deal with, Wendy, I love what you just did, Jamaica. Hi, Jamaica. But what we were dealing with was, it was buyer beware. No protection for buyers if they bought a house that the foundation was cracking. I mean, I remember one of my offices, we sold a home where the oil tank, which was an oil-fueled furnace, was under, they built a patio over the oil tank, so you couldn't get to it if you needed to get to it. In those days, the buyer didn't even have to be told that. Then agency law changed, and we created this thing of blanket rules of agency, which meant that I have, in California, I am naturally a fiduciary to either the buyer or seller, contract or not. But what's happening, and Arthur, speaking to you specifically on this issue, it used to be that we were sub-agents to the seller's agents, to the seller, before agency law was created. And so, and that was a bad thing. So as an example, if I'm showing a buyer and I haven't done my research, and that buyer asked me whether or not their kid's going to go to the school across the street, and I say yes, and I'm wrong, under sub-agency, I've just created a problem for the seller. The seller was ultimately liable for anything I said, which is why sub-agency made no sense and why agency law was created. So when we take agency law and we move it forward, at the time agency law was first created, the National Association of Realtors, through the multiple listing system, had to create a blanket rule of compensation. And so the MLS does indeed state that there has to be cooperation between as Arthur was saying, has to be cooperation between the listing company or agent and the buyer's company or agent. And so those two things together created blanket rules. It's in the MLS. Now, the class action lawsuit, and I've got some, of course, Slavica and Miroslav know me, I have opinions. And when we look at the lawsuit, basically a few people, companies, entities got together and basically said, and I'm paraphrasing the whole thing, that sellers were being required to pay buyers' agents, and it was mandated. Well, that's a simplification of the lawsuit. Effectively, this class action lawsuit, and there's several large companies that have gotten involved, are saying to them it's a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act, effectively saying that the blanket rules of MLS are requiring the seller to pay the buyer's agent. Well, when you look at the contracts, and I've looked at contracts throughout the United States of America, probably 20, 30 states, maybe more. The contract doesn't say you are required. The contract said, and doesn't also say that there's a mandate as to how much must be paid. It's basically very clear. It says it is up to the seller to decide how much to pay the buyer's agent. And if the seller doesn't want to pay the buyer's agent, they can put it in, and I've seen them put it in as $1 or whatever the case may be. But there's no mandate. The law does not require the seller to cooperate. It just requires, so I don't really believe the class action lawsuit is going to win, but this was something I started to talk to you about, and I'll come back to you in a second, Arthur. One of the things that I am talking about, and all the things I'm teaching right now throughout the United States, whether it's on webinar or anywhere else, is that we must, as an industry in the United States of America and Canada, must absolutely begin to get exclusive buyer representation agreements. And so, and the reason for that is you've got, I wrote a course for a presentation up in Santa Barbara, and it was on this very issue, get a buyer broker agreement. Just like you would get an exclusive right to sell agreement from a seller, get an exclusive right to represent agreement with the buyer. And the reason for that is a lot of the discounters, all of the advertisers, all the people that are saying, you know, you're overpaying to sell your home. Quite frankly, and I'm hoping my students from that class remember what I told you to do. You take the compensation, you roll it into the sale price, and as long as it's appraisable, you're fine. But I really do believe that there is, what is coming, I think we're going to have to get out of what we're in right now, but what is coming is that there will be, buyers will get paid by buyers agents, or buyers agents will get paid by buyers, agents will get paid by sellers, and there'll be a separation. But there has to be a change in the blanket rules of MLS. So that's the overview of the class action lawsuit. I do personally feel it's baseless, and the reason I feel that is because it doesn't say that you're mandated to. It's just in the contract, but it's all negotiable. So it's very, very clear. Commissions are negotiable. So I hope that helped, Arthur. Did it help?
Okay.
Ginni, please, I'm sorry, Slavica, just to be clear and to understand it absolutely clear. So you consider your opinion that the future of MLS is separation of these two commission, buyer should pay and seller should pay, or still it's about sharing the commission?
Well, right now, there has been no decision. It's still a require of sharing the commission, but it does not dictate how much commission to be shared.
Of course.
But yeah, at this point in time, it is still that way. And I'm not saying a week from Tuesday it's going to change. I do believe that there is momentum that is going to create a separation. But that goes back, guys, to 1985, 86, when I was first in the industry. At the time that agency law changed, sellers never knew that the agent showing the buyer property worked for the seller. The seller didn't know it. The agent didn't know it. And so we ended up, when we first launched this, so what they're trying to do is coming back around, Arthur, where effectively it means, because when we first had agency law changes, sellers refused to pay a buyer's agent. And they were saying things like, well, this buyer's agent doesn't work for me anyway, and I don't want to pay them. And that created this huge groundswell of misunderstanding that agency relationships and compensation were connected. They're not. And so offer of compensation is I'm hiring you to do a job. And so that job is how it happens. So do I think down the road? I do. And I say that, again, I've been doing this a long, long time. I'm a student of my industry. I have an obligation to be a student of my industry. And I do believe that there could be trends because of the changes in my industry overall in the United States toward having separation of compensation. But that requires a rule from MLS, from the National Association of Realtors. It has to come from that.
Okay, what you speak now, it is happening in Serbia as well, because after announcing the licensing law in Serbia, we were having obligation to sign agreement with the sellers, but in Belgrade, the people were used to that buyer is paying a commission because everybody wanted to buy in Belgrade. But now colleagues now make a solution, and they have a buyer's agreement and seller's agreement, and each agent is getting fee from his client. So it is already happening. And it is very important. It is very important in any country, because at least me personally use the experience from United States as the most and biggest and longest experience in the world in this. And many things are, I think, they are the best organized. But still, each one of us, and that is in our code of ethics, said, has to respect at first his law.
Right.
So in our countries, it is different definition of in law about the rights for exclusive representation or some other, about the rights of the client and the rights of the and obligations of the agent. I would like to use, because we are, I expected with you, Ginni, didn't I told you? This is the topic very interesting to everybody.
I want to speak one more thing to what Arthur said, and then I'll stop talking. Arthur, you're so correct. MLS, you got to understand, we have now created a new thing within the National Association of Realtors about mandatory MLS. In other words, when you take a listing, before you market it, it must go in the MLS. The reason for that, I mean, as an example, if I get an agent tell me, and it's very self-serving, say, well, you don't need anybody in your house. You don't want to have it shown. You don't want it in the MLS. I can sell it for you. It'll be easier for you. And I am now, that agent is one of an office of maybe 50 people or 100 people. I've just eliminated 23,000 people in the county of San Diego through our MLS who may not ever see my home that's for sale because it's not being put in the MLS. So Arthur is so right in saying, MLS is the way to go because it benefits the seller. If you have the ability to get the seller's property be viewed by more eyes through a multiple listing system where more people can see that property, the likelihood of it selling faster and often for more money is very, very real. So that's all. I'll stop talking now.
Okay, I will to all the people that are interested about that, and definitely we are. I will organize another webinar particularly about the system of MLS, because this is the system that has to be known to know the things, how it's organized, what are the relationships, etc. Now I try to speak only about the part of this, and that is relationship with the client. I would like to hear to include from other part of the world our friend and colleague Vivek Gupta. Vivek, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Thank you for participating here. Can you give us experience with exclusive representation in India?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm basically Vivek Gupta from India, from Ignis Global Reality. In India, basically, you know, the mandate deals and exclusive representation is not very much prevalent because it has just started coming in, and I believe that it is in interest of everyone to actually sign them, because you know only then you are able to actually safeguard your money, your commission from the buyer and the seller. Now in certain cases, what I have actually seen, some builders have also started offering the mandate that you bring a client to us and you have a window of say 60 days. If you close the deal, the commission is yours. After 60 days, anyone can come. So that creates a drift. I've seen that it creates a drift between the buyer, because he becomes more inclined that he'll go directly to the buyer, and the buyer and to the builder, and the builder will also be getting in touch with him. So that is also somewhere where the things are not pretty much clear. India people, I really found most of the buyers in the high, we talk about that everyone is very professional, very much, but the laws and all are not so clear as such. We just recently had RERA introduced by the government, which is Real Estate Regulatory Authority. So that is one part. And we have got National Association of Realtors India, which again is working across India to make the trade more professional and better. But I think the number of transactions are very less when we talk about exclusive mandates. People are hesitant to sign. But if you are actually, I think if the buyer and the seller are able to understand the value the realtor will actually be bringing to the table. So I always believe that that is the way and the future. And the more we are rigid on this, only then this trade and this industry can actually grow. And I don't know, but mostly what I have actually seen is that people actually want to take the services of the realtor, but they don't want to pay him. They like to pay anyone else, but they think the realtor is getting free money. So that is a major kind of a problem which I've seen in India. But definitely, I see that exclusive mandates are the way forward, and most of the brokers and in the fraternity are actually working towards it. And I think that international practices will, shortly be coming in, and people will see more value. And after this COVID-19, I think that a lot of things are going to change for the better. So this is my say on to this.
Thank you so
Vivek.
much.
Thank you, Vivek. Keep on doing that, because the with your association you are presenting the high professionalism, and I believe that will come on the target to your professionals as well. Yes, Ginny.
I just want to thank you for your comments, and you're absolutely right. I think the value proposition piece, I've been asked by NAR to do some courses, small courses for them that are going to be webinar based, and one of those is going to be on the value proposition, and it's about dialoguing and communication, and that, that's to me one of the most important things, is being able to be brave enough to say no, and believe in yourself and your value enough to be able to walk away.
Okay.
Yeah, I also agree. It's very important. Thank you. Very nice. And Ginni, the way you have given all the inputs, I think they are very much right, and show the experience you actually have in the industry. And whatever words you have been saying are worth the, in gold, the way you have told to everyone, I believe. So, and everyone will agree. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to hear another opinion of the man that I know that from Europe, to come close to Europe, because actually we started this from Europe. Manuel, are you there? Manuel, do you hear me?
I guess
yes, I hear you very well.
Oh, hello, Manuel. Hello. I know. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Fine, fine. And you?
Do you like this conversation about exclusive representation?
Yeah, for sure. It's every time really good to hear what happens in the other countries, how they are dealing with the different contracts, exclusive, non-exclusive, because this also can help all the other countries where we don't have this different type of contracts to go further in the future.
Can you tell me? Can you tell me? I know that you are dealing with exclusive, and you are a fan of exclusive representation as well. At what level it is actually done with exclusive representation in your country?
Which country is that? Which
Luxembourg.
country?
Luxembourg.
Oh, I love Luxembourg. You know where I go every single January? I'm in the Ardennes every January, because my dad was
okay.
It's your neighborhood.
Then next time you tell me that you are in Luxembourg, and then we can meet. No problem.
I usually go shopping and eating in Luxembourg.
Yeah, it's the most important things in the world, and we know also how the life is going on.
Okay, can you tell me at what level is exclusive representation in your industry, in your country present, and what
we have two types of let's say mandates contracts. So you have the non-exclusive and the exclusive. Often, I as my agency, we are working quite, yeah, let's say more than 80% of the contracts are all on an exclusive base. Often, you are when you are working with developers, you are working on a non-exclusive way. But then the developer also choose only 2, 3, maximum 4 other agencies, and he's dealing with them all together. So everybody will know exactly what the other one is doing. So at the end, it's an exclusive contract that you will have with the developer. But but you as a company, you can only do exclusive rights with your sellers, and then you can deal with other agencies. That's no problem. So then in Luxembourg, when you will do the contract, you sign a pre-contract, a pre-selling contract. Pre-selling contract. With this contract, the customer will go to the bank to have the mortgage and to go further. And later on, we will go to the notary to finalize the deal, so that the property will pass from the buyer to the seller. From the seller.
Pre-selling contract is the contract between the seller and the buyer. That's the way we do it in Serbia as well.
Exactly, it's the contract. It's done between the buyer and seller, and you as agency, you are dealing with this. You are preparing these contracts. You are doing everything for the two parts.
Okay, but if I understood well, it's present exclusive representation there, but it's still at lower level.
Yeah, you have also exclusive representation, but there you have also a lot of buyers who wants to deal with more agencies, because they think every time that every agency can give them more than another. But I'm not dealing with these customers. It's like Ginni said before. I'm worth more, and so I have these goals, exclusive contracts. It could be that sometimes I have buyers where I need not to have contracts because I'm working with them for years, and there I know that I have the exclusivity, so that it's no problem. But because the contract, the mandate, it's not obligatory in Luxembourg, so you need not to have a contract. But I will not sell something without having a contract from the buyer, the seller, because at the end you are not selling a liter of milk. You are selling lives of people.
Exactly. Very well said.
Exactly.
Well
That's
said,
good
well
said.
said.
Thank
Good
you very
job.
much, Manuel. Well, we did this webinar longer than any before I organized.
And I've got an appointment coming up, so I'm going to have to break away,
yes,
guys.
we will have to finish this. We have did our time. I hope you liked it. I will continue doing this webinars with many different topics, and I have already for next 2, 3, I think, organized with the speakers, the topics that are interesting for our industry. I invite you to follow the information Facebook page that I'm sharing, and if you agree with that, and you can say your comments in the Facebook page about what we are doing here. I will continue inviting you to the new webinars. There were many questions about this presentation. Many people asked me in the chatting with the messages to have your presentation. This webinar, as previous webinar as well, will be are recorded and will be put it on my YouTube channel. So you can see already the webinar with John Mayfield and Darren Kittleson. Very soon I will put their webinar with Rajar Pal and with Ginni Field. So all these webinars will be recorded and put it on YouTube channel, so you could use it and watch after this meeting. Thank you everybody for coming here and for participating. Stay active, stay safe and healthy. Ginni, thank you very much for participating.
Bye
we
bye,
will
everybody.
organize again. I will unmute all for this applause for Ginny.
Thank you, everybody. I'll see you again soon, I hope.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Great job. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Ginny.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you
Thank you,
all.
Ginny. Very nice.
Nice to meet you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.